Hey there! We're about to dig into a really simple number that holds, well, a pretty powerful secret about how we get through life's chaos. It's this idea that really separates the people who are defined by what happens to them from the ones who define their own story. Let's jump in. So here it is from Charles R. Swindoll. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you respond. You could call this a quiet but kind of brutal truth. Only 10% of life is the actual event, the real game, the part that truly matters. That's the other 90%. That's our response. And this is that 90%. This is where all of our power is. It's not in trying to control that chaotic, uncontrollable 10%. Nope. It's in mastering our response. This is the space where we get to write our own headlines, no matter what life decides to throw our way.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? It sounds great in a quote, but what does it actually look like day to day? Well, the way to think about it is through four powerful secrets that kind of peel back the layers on how to take control of that crucial 90%.
Okay, so secret number one is all about revelation. It's this idea that our reactions, especially when we're under pressure, they don't just solve a problem, they reveal who we really are deep down. I just love this way of putting it. Bad news has the worst timing. It's notorious for it. It never shows up when you're well-rested and totally ready for it. Of course not. It shows up when you're already exhausted or stressed or maybe just starting to feel a little bit hopeful. And in that moment, when it all hits the fan, your gut reaction, that tells the world and you what you're really made of. So get this. This quote comes from a fascinating story about a guy who loses his job on a Friday. And instead of falling apart, he just laughs. And he says this, "Even my alarm clock tomorrow will be confused." I mean, what a perfect example of choosing dignity, choosing humor. Life knocked him down, but his response showed he was still on his feet. And the best part? A month later, he landed an even better job. So that leads us right into secret number two, which is all about perspective. It's this idea that what feels like an absolute disaster right now might actually be setting you up for something way better. Just think about it for a second. How many people look back on what they thought was the worst day of their life? A bad breakup, a business deal that went south, getting fired, and then years later, they realize, wow, that was the turning point. That was the moment that forced them onto a path they never would have found on their own. The disaster was actually a promotion in disguise. And this just nails it, doesn't it? Sometimes we get so fixated on one single door that we just can't see any of the other opportunities around us. A huge setback can be like a cosmic shove, forcing our attention away from that door that just slammed shut and toward a window we never even knew was there. Which brings us to secret number three, and this one is a really crucial distinction. It's not about the storm itself, it's about our internal response to it, because the same storm can create two completely different people. This is so powerful. You've got two people, right? They face the exact same storm. One of them walks out bitter, resentful, broken. The other emerges wiser, stronger, more resilient. So what was the difference? It was never about the rain. It was about what they chose to grow from it. Same rain, totally different harvest. I mean, how clever is that? We always hear that pressure builds character, but this suggests something totally different. That maybe pressure doesn't build anything at all. It just reveals what's already inside. It squeezes you, and whatever you're filled with, whether that's anger or grace, fear or courage, that's what's going to come out. And that brings us to our final secret. And honestly, this one might seem a little lighthearted at first, but it is incredibly profound. A sense of humor isn't just for laughs. It is essential survival equipment for this journey we're on. Just think about the power in a response like this. When you get rejected, instead of taking it on as some kind of deep personal failure, you can just reframe it with a little bit of humor. It's not about pretending it doesn't sting. It's about not letting that sting define the moment. People who can do this just live lighter. They get that a setback, kind of like a dropped Wi-Fi signal, is just a temporary disruption, not a permanent failure. And here's another awesome reframe. When some problem pops up out of nowhere, instead of seeing it as a catastrophe, you can just call it a plot twist. That simple shift in language is huge. It transforms you from a victim in the story to the hero of your own movie. It's not a dead end anymore, it's just an unexpected chapter. And it's a great reminder that you're still the one holding the pen. You refuse to let the problem get the last word. So when you put all four of these secrets together, a really clear picture starts to form. Life gives us the raw materials, the events, the circumstances, that 10%. but it's our response, our 90%. That's the ink we use to write the actual story. So, what's that ink made of? Well, it really boils down to these three things: the courage to face the storm head on, the grace to handle it with some dignity, and the humor to keep your spirit from getting crushed. That's the toolkit. That's how you master your 90%. And that really just leaves us with this final thought. Life is always going to write its 10%. That part, that's not up to us. But the rest of the page, that vast, sprawling 90%, that's blank. The pen is in your hand. So the only question left is, what story